everyone, welcome to our channel Xcellon, where we help you to excel in science and maths. Today, let's discuss on one of the most important topic of biology, respiration. चलिए, अगर मैं आपसे पूछूं what is respiration, मैक्सिमम लोगों का जवाब होता है ये रेस्पिरेशन नहीं है, इसे भी कहते हैं ब्रीदिंग। तो चलिए देखते हैं व्हाट इज रेस्पिरेशन। ग्लूकोज से हमें एनर्जी मिलती है। अब ये एनर्जी 3 डिफरेंट कंडीशंस में जनरेट होती है: प्रेजेंस ऑफ ऑक्सीजन, एब्सेंस ऑफ ऑक्सीजन एंड लैक ऑफ ऑक्सीजन। अब डिफरेंट ऑर्गेनिज्म में डिफरेंट कंडीशन के अकॉर्डिंग एनर्जी जनरेट होती है। सो जो पहली कॉमन स्टेप है इन ऑल द ऑर्गेनिज्म टू जनरेट एनर्जी और फॉर दिस रिएक्शन इज ग्लूकोज, a 6 carbon molecule, gets converted into pyruvate, a 3 carbon molecule. ये पहली कॉमन स्टेप है सभी ऑर्गेनिज्म में फॉर ऑफ दिस रिएक्शन। नेक्स्ट, फ्रॉम हियर ऑनवर्ड्स the reaction changes according to the organism. In higher organisms like us, the humans or the animals, here pyruvate gets converted into carbon dioxide, water plus energy. This is happening in presence of oxygen. This oxygen we are taking in during breathing. This reaction is called as aerobic respiration. This is called as aerobic respiration, which happens in presence of oxygen. Now the next reaction is in absence of oxygen, where there is no oxygen for the organism. So what is happening? Pyruvate, a 3 carbon molecule, getting converted into ethanol, a 2 carbon molecule plus carbon dioxide plus energy. Now you must be thinking, ये कौन से ऑर्गेनिज्म में हो रहा है जिसके पास ऑक्सीजन नहीं जा रहा है? The simplest example I will tell you is the yeast, जो ब्रेड्स में डाले जाते हैं, जो ब्रेड बनाने के लिए डाले जाते हैं. In that case, yeast is not getting enough because it is in dissolved form. It is not getting oxygen. So in such cases, in that organism, it is generating energy for itself, but in that pyruvate is getting converted into ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy. This is happening in yeast, which is called as fermentation, and this reaction is called as anaerobic respiration. This is called as anaerobic respiration. We have seen 2 types of respiration: aerobic respiration, which means respiration in presence of oxygen. Second, we have seen anaerobic respiration, that means in absence of oxygen. Now the third is lack of oxygen. Lack of oxygen का मतलब क्या होता है? जब हमें ऑक्सीजन प्रॉपर क्वांटिटी में नहीं मिल रही है, तब हमारे सेल्स एनर्जी कैसे जनरेट कर रहा है? Let's see. Now pyruvate, which is common in all the types of reactions. Pyruvate, here it is getting converted into lactic acid plus energy. This lactic acid now This lactic acid causes cramps in our body. You must have seen when you are into rigorous exercise, एक पेन होने लगता है पैरों में, या अगर हाथ का यूज है तो हाथ में हमें क्रैम्प्स आ जाते हैं. क्यों? क्योंकि रिगरस एक्सरसाइज के टाइम में ऑक्सीजन सप्लाई तो उतना ही है, लिमिटेड, बट कंजम्पशन आपकी बॉडी में ज़्यादा हो रहा है. सो एट दैट टाइम ऑक्सीजन का सप्लाई कम है, बट मसल सेल्स को ऑक्सीजन तो चाहिए, नहीं मिल रहा है, एनर्जी तो बनाना है, तो कैसे होगा? It will convert this reaction into lactic acid. This reaction is taking place to give lactic acid and energy. Further, हमारे क्रैम्प्स ठीक भी हो जाते हैं. कैसे? क्योंकि यही लैक्टिक एसिड फर्दर reacting with oxygen gets converted into carbon dioxide and water. But initially when there was lack of oxygen, pyruvate was converted into lactic acid and energy. Body ने energy तो बना ली for that moment of exercise. But accumulation of this lactic acid in the muscle cells causes cramps in our body, जिसके कारण हमें दर्द होता है उस जगह पे, बट लेटर ऑन वो दर्द ठीक भी हो जाता है, क्योंकि यही लैक्टिक एसिड रिएक्ट करता है ऑक्सीजन के साथ और ये कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड एंड वाटर बन के इट गेट रिलीज्ड. चलिए अब देखते हैं ये एनर्जी कैसे हेल्प कर रहा है हमारी बॉडी में. ना द एनर्जी विच इज created or generated during aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration or in absence of oxygen, lack of oxygen, that energy will be used to synthesize a molecule called as ATP, adenosine triphosphate. The energy which was generated, that will be consumed, that will be used for formation of this molecule. So energy is stored in this molecule which is further used to fuel different activities of the cell. So how this is generated or how this molecule is created? That is created by the reaction between adenosine diphosphate and phosphate to form adenosine triphosphate, that is ATP, adenosine triphosphate. This molecule fuels up many different activities of the cell, which ultimately we will say it is giving energy to our, or we are getting energy for different activities. अब तक हमने देखा what is respiration, different types of respiration in different conditions, and how energy molecule is being created or generated. Now अब देखेंगे in presence of oxygen की हम बात करेंगे. अब different organism different way में oxygen absorb कर रहे हैं. For example, in plants and different cells and different unicellular organism, how they are taking in oxygen, how their body is taking in oxygen. It is taking in by the process called as diffusion. They are taking in oxygen by diffusion. Let's see about plants. Plants, we all know there are exchange of gases, that means of carbon dioxide and oxygen. It is taking place through stomata. It is taking place through stomata, from where the air comes in contact with the intercellular spaces between the cells. What are intercellular spaces? The spaces between the cells. These are the cells, and the space which you can see in between the cells, this is called as intercellular spaces. Intercellular spaces. Here the oxygen or the carbon dioxide enters from intercellular spaces inside the cell through diffusion. This is about the plants. Then what about the aquatic animals? Or the animals, rather I would say animals. Now every organism or every living cell on this planet have a different pathway for the intake of oxygen. For the plant, it is through stomata to intercellular space, and from intercellular spaces to the cells, and vice versa. But in what about the aquatic animals? In that, the aquatic animals consume oxygen which is dissolved in water. So you must have seen the aquatic animals breathes very fast. They are trying to take that oxygen. We can see their breathing rate is very fast. What exactly they are doing? They are taking in water continuously so that the water can be passed on to a special cells in them, or I would say a special organ in them, which is called as gills. The water is being passed on to the gills to absorb oxygen from that water, and the remaining water is being thrown out. So the rate of respiration or the rate of breathing in aquatic animal is much higher than us, because the surface area, the area for the absorption of oxygen is less. They are also doing major activities, but the rate of breathing is more in them so that they can get sufficient quantity of oxygen. Now, what about our animals? What about the animals, or I can say the humans? We are breathing in through nose. We are breathing, which is the major part of our respiration. We are breathing. We are taking in air through the nasal cavity. So our breathing starts from the nose. We take in air from the nasal cavity, which is getting filtered first. There are, if you have observed your nose carefully, there are tiny hair inside our nose. What is the role of those hair? इनका काम है एयर को फिल्टर करना, सो दैट जो भी डस्ट पार्टिकल्स है, मेजर बड़े कंटामिनेंट्स है एयर में, उसे फिल्टर करना. नेक्स्ट, filtration happens when we have mucus lining on our respiratory tract. In our respiratory tract, there is a mucus lining which is sticky. So the fine particles, they are trapped in them. So the mucus lining starts from the nasal cavity itself. The space inside the nose is called as nasal cavity. So this mucus helps to trap the fine particles as well. And here the filtration of air happens and the air enters further. Further it enters into the pharynx. Then comes the larynx, where our vocal cord is also located. Then from the larynx it enters the trachea. So first breathing starts from nasal cavity, then it enters pharynx, then it enters larynx, then it enters trachea. Now, trachea is also called as windpipe. In general term, it is called as windpipe. Here, the trachea have circular rings around them, cartilage rings around them, so that because of the pressure of air, the trachea should not collapse. So these rings helps the trachea to stand upright, to stand straight. From trachea, air enters into bronchi. Singular, this is the plural term, singular term is bronchus. From bronchi, it enters bronchioles, and from bronchioles it enters alveoli. Alveoli again is a plural term. Alveoli also in singular form it is called as alveolus. So how it is happening? Nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea. Then there is a passage which is going inside the lungs. Those two pipes, those two which is emerging out of the trachea, they are called as bronchi. If I talk about only one, it is called as bronchus. Bronchus then entering inside the lungs gets branched out into bronchioles, and bronchioles ends at alveoli. Now alveoli are the sac-like structure. They are like sac-like structure at the end of the bronchioles, where the exchange of gases takes place. Our body is generating carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide, which is not good for us, is being thrown out from the blood into the alveoli. And the oxygen which is coming with the air is being taken in the bloodstream through alveoli. So this exchange of gases takes place in alveoli, and this oxygen, now, so oxygen cannot travel alone or travel like just flowing in the blood and can reach all the cells. It needs a medium to travel. It is not that easy because we are a very large organism, have different types of cells. बहुत types of cells है, complicated है, बहुत ज़्यादा बड़े tissues है, तो हर जगह ऑक्सीजन ऐसे ही फ्लो करके डिफ्यूजन के थ्रू हर एक सेल में चले जाना पॉसिबल नहीं है. In that case, we have a pigment in our blood called as hemoglobin. Hemoglobin attaches oxygen. Hemoglobin has an affinity for oxygen to attach oxygen and to supply it to different parts of our body, to different tissues of our body. At the same time, carbon dioxide is more soluble in blood, so it can travel without hemoglobin as well in the blood and can be filtered out through alveoli, or can be filtered. These alveoli are richly covered with bloodstream so that the bloodstream can exchange the gases oxygen, carbon dioxide. So this is how respiration takes place in all the different living cells on this planet. If you have any other doubt regarding this topic, do let me know, do let us know through the email ID mentioned in our description box. Thank you so much. Have a great day.